So I didn't think it would be necessary to make a video like this, even though I've made it before and I didn't think it was necessary the first time, but here we are again. So for what is, I hope, the vast majority of you, this video should just be a form of light entertainment. But for the very few of you that either don't understand or don't agree with the rules that I'm about to describe to you, this might be a little bit enlightening, or if not, it will be a little bit convincing as to what you should and shouldn't do when merging in lanes. Now, the reason it should be a bit enlightening and a bit of education for you is because if you are wrong, but you believe you're right and you end up in a collision and you go to court, you will be wrong and you'll be held liable, or your insurance won't pay out. I'll explain all of that in a minute. But in the meantime, let's get into the problem. Picture for a moment, if you will, this is the left-hand side of the carriageway. This starts off as a 3-lane carriageway down here. There's a right turn here. And this, what was a 3-lane carriageway, this is a right and straight on. This then merges into just 2 lanes. So there's a bit of a lane there, but then this merges into just 2 lanes. So 1 and 2. This bit here, that's supposed to be an arrow, that merges into here. Now, what we have is me starting down here. There's a queue of vehicles here to turn right. So this is the guy that we're talking about here. I obviously carry on and I'm merging, so I end up about here. This guy ends up racing to try to get in front of me here. Only before he gets there, I'm already in front. So in fact, he's not quite there yet. He's actually about here. Now, obviously, as I was already moving, I edge my way forward, I end up here. This guy then tries to force his way in to get in front of me here. And he's having an absolute hissy fit because I didn't let him in. Now, this is the very common scenario of merge in turn. The person behind very often thinks that they have the right to get in front of you, but they don't. Because I've had clients come to me before now and they've shown me dashcam footage where they've tried to force their way in front of another vehicle and that vehicle has hit them from behind because they've forced their way in front. My advice has been that it's your fault and you shouldn't contest it. They obviously didn't agree with that, but the insurance companies both agreed with my assertion, even without seeing it. They didn't see my advice. That was independent advice. Both of the insurance companies agreed with what I said, and they agreed that it was this car's fault. So if you are the vehicle behind and you try to force your way in front of another vehicle, even though it's a merge in turn and there is a standard give way to the right thing in the highway code, that doesn't automatically mean that if you're on the right, you're in the right. Because if you're on the right, yes, you ordinarily will have some priority. But if this vehicle is already in front of you and you are here and you are trying to force your way in and you run out of space, it's this car's fault. Because even if you get to a scenario where you've just about made it in front, but there's a collision here, if you are this guy, it's going to be your fault, even though technically it's this car hitting you from behind. It's a bit of a myth that it is always this car's fault if they're behind you and they hit you from behind. Because a court would see it as this. If you forced your way in front when you could have just hung back a bit, it's your fault. Because this merge in turn is not an absolute rule. It doesn't mean this car has the priority to go in front. And just to be absolutely clear about this, the highway code does not give anybody a right of way. Lots of people talk about the right of way in the highway code, and that's just a bit of a myth. It does give priorities, it does give guidance, it does give rules. Some of them are mandatory and some of them are just guidance. But all of those rules are going to be what's used against you if you are involved in a collision by the other side. The other side's legal counsel will put these rules to you and say, you could have held back, but you didn't. And if you did hold back, the collision wouldn't have occurred. They will put to you that the main reason this collision occurred is because you drove in front of the vehicle. Even though this vehicle hit you from behind, it would not have happened if you held back. And that is why you, if you are this car, will be responsible. So I hope that's been either entertaining or educational, depending on which side of this fence you fall, but I hope you found it useful. Please do subscribe and I'll see you next time.